Hi, and thank you for watching The Social Life, the place for entrepreneurs with a purpose who are ready to unleash their something amazing. So today I want to talk to you about getting paid as a nonprofit founder. I know that a lot of people are always very leery about paying themselves as a nonprofit founder, and I have to admit that I'm also one of those people. But when you're creating a social change organization, realize that you actually are an entrepreneur, hence the name social entrepreneur. Just because you are starting a nonprofit organization or a social impact organization that happens to be for profit, that is okay. You still deserve to be paid for the work that you're doing. Now, this is something that everyone grapples with. This is a for-profit, this is a nonprofit, this is a social impact organization, a social enterprise, whatever it is. A lot of people struggle with this same question. Should I pay myself when I'm in the critical stages of my business? And a lot of times people will often say no, and then other times they will not pay themselves what they're worth. Now, in order to carry out some of the programs that you'll have in your organization, you may need to lower the amount that you actually take. This is a decision that not only you will make, but also your board members. So this is a joint decision, and it will take a little bit of research and a little bit of time to discover how much you should be paid and what you're doing is worth. As long as you and your board feel like you are being compensated for the work that you're doing in your organization, that's great. So first, let me start off by saying that when you're doing good work, you absolutely should be paid for that work. Just because you're doing good does not mean that you should not be paid or you should be underpaid. Now, before you go off and run to your board and say, let me start getting paid, let's look at a few things first. The first thing is you have to know what the comparable pays are, the comparable salaries are for people who are doing some of the same work that you're doing. So this is called benchmarking. You need to benchmark your salary that you think you should be paid based on a written description of the jobs and activities and tasks that you do on a daily basis. So for myself, generally I'm doing more administrative tasks. So when I write out my job description, I should know and see that generally most of my tasks could be done at a desk. It could be done from home. It could be done by someone with a certain level of education, and could they run this portion of what I do? Well, when I go to look at administration personnel are being paid, then I can find a benchmark as to what I should be paid. So then you look at it from a similar organization with similar duties, and then you go from there. And I'm sorry I'm a little stuffy today, guys. I'm kind of getting over a cold, so bear with me on that. But the first thing you want to look at is benchmarking. The next thing you want to do is you'll want to talk to your board, and hopefully before you've even benchmarked or started discussing pay or anything, you have actually spoken to your board about, is it time for me to start getting paid? Or I'd like to focus on this 100% and I will need to be paid from the organization in order to focus on this 100%. And looking at what costs you have that you must pay just to live, and then also what costs are benchmarked for other salaries and what costs your organization can bear. Those are a couple things you'll want to look at when you're thinking about getting paid as a social entrepreneur. The other thing is during your critical stages of growth, oftentimes you're not even thinking about getting paid, and it may start out as even a side hustle, right? And I have another video on when to make your side hustle official that might be helpful as well. But the big thing is during that critical stage of growth, sometimes you're not even thinking about funding your own salary. You're not thinking about whether or not you should be paid. You're really just thinking about getting this thing off the ground and building it and getting it off the ground, and you're fine working a separate job. However, when things really start picking up and your organization hits a critical mass that maybe you can't handle anymore, you will start to think about drawing a salary from your organization so that you can focus 100% on the organization. The next thing is, before you even consider thinking about benchmarking and you think about talking to your board, you need to make sure that you have a full budget for your business. And this should be an approved budget by your board. You guys should have been working off of this for quite some time. and you have the ability, and if you haven't done that, obviously you can create one, but if you have the ability to look at your budget and see, okay, this is where a lot of funds are going. This is how much we have at the end of the year generally, or this is how much we have to pay someone to do some of the tasks that we need done. Those are the types of things that you'll want to look at. Do you have an approved budget for your business? Does your board approve the pay scale that you're thinking? And of course, benchmarking. You need to make sure you know what you're worth and how you plan to get it. Now, it's tough to say that you're out there raising funds just to pay yourself, but the fact of the matter is that in order to carry out any of the programs that you have in your organization, it all relies on you, right? So if you're not there, those programs would not get done. So you have to be able to relay to your board and also your supporters that the program that they are supporting relies on you in order to make it happen. So whether that is, there's a number of different ways to actually find funds to pay yourself, and I will do that in another video, hopefully next week. But you need to be able to demonstrate that you are doing a critical job that needs to be funded within your organization. So let's say as the founder, you're the person that carries out finding new recruits and new vendors for your program. You're the person who orders the equipment that you might need, the materials that you'll need for your program. You're the person that sits with the new clients and coordinates services for them. There are a lot of things that you may be doing that you don't even realize because you're so used to doing these things as part of your organization. But those are the types of things that you need to sit down and really write out the tasks that you do as if someone else were going to come into your organization and do your job. So once you write out all of the duties and tasks that you complete and that you do as a social entrepreneur in your organization, then you can start to look for what does that generally benchmark? What does that salary, what's a comparable salary in another type of job, whether it's a for-profit sector job or it's a nonprofit sector job, it doesn't matter. You just need to find out what the comparable compensation would be for someone doing the tasks that you have been doing. Now, it might be easier to think of, as well as your board, it might be easier to think of hiring someone before it's easier to pay you as the founder. But once you guys think through what it would cost to hire someone, then see if you're more qualified to do it and if you want to continue doing it. If you would like to continue doing it and you guys have removed all bias and you have looked at everything from the benchmarking perspective, the knowing what your position is worth, the talent you're looking for, and you think you're the best suited and your board believes you're the best suited for this position, then you should be deemed the executive director and being paid as the executive director. Now, if you feel strongly about taking your program costs to pay yourself, that is totally fine. I get it. Understand this though, each activity and program that you provide actually does come with a cost. So that's not to say that you can't take funds out of your program, because that means that with every program cost, that should include someone doing and carrying out the program. So sit down and break down those costs and figure out what that entails. How much gas does it take to get wherever you have to go to the office? How much office space does it require for you to see 30 patients or 30 clients? How much staffing time does it take when you have to meet with a client or coordinate services or whatever that may be? Any of the tasks that you're doing, how do you or your staff fit into those tasks? And the reason this is such a big issue about being paid as a nonprofit founder or as a social change founder is because as a social entrepreneur, I think in people's minds, they think that, you're doing good. And so I don't know why we have it set up that you shouldn't be paid to do good or have social impact. But when you can start to show what that social impact looks like and how effective your program is, I don't think people will be against wanting to pay you for your program. So just keep that in mind. Other thing is, if you have the funds in your program and say you put on 4 different types of events, you may need to scale back at some point and not do maybe as many events, or maybe you can't serve as many people as you've been serving in the past. But that's okay, because if you and your board decide that that is a reasonable sacrifice or scaling that needs to be done in order for you to be compensated for the work that you're doing, that's okay. And you shouldn't feel bad about this at all, because you are doing good work and you are an entrepreneur. And in order to continue doing the work that has been impactful up until this point, you need to be compensated just like in any other business or entrepreneurship venture. And it's important for you to understand that and know this. Now, where a lot of people get into trouble is they want to pay their family members, they want to pay themselves. This is not you. This should not be your cash cow. This is just to be compensated for the work that you're doing. And that's why sometimes in some of my board videos, I say you should only have less than 49% of your board be family members and staff. You know, you don't want to have a nonprofit that sponsors and grants and things like that, and supporters are paying into to pay your family or to make money for yourself. You have to walk a very fine line. I think transparency is the only true solution to this type of problem that can arise from being paid from your nonprofit organization. People should be able to look up your salary. They should know how you're getting funding, how much money is coming from where to make up your funding. And, obviously, I think the more transparent you are about it, like putting it out to your members or your supporters, that you are now going to start drawing a salary from your organization so that you can better provide services and more time to provide more impact to your community. So anyway, I hope that video helped you today. And if you have any questions, obviously leave them down below. And don't forget to sign up for the Socialife. I will see you on Tuesday, and thank you so much for watching. Now get out there and unleash your something amazing. I'll see you next week.